Welcome back to the Sibling Group Chat. I'm Owen.
And I'm Cassidy.
And today we're back at it with the Odyssey review, episode 33, Kids Radio.
Yes, this is the 36th episode of Adventures in Odyssey, and it originally aired on July 23rd, 1988. It is part of Album 2, The Wildest Summer Ever. And in this episode, Mr. Whitaker and the gang start a radio station in a back room of Wits End. Of course, the station is run by kids for kids. And our themes are perseverance and commitment.
This is a great episode. I love this episode.
It is good. I feel like not as good as the big broadcast, but still good.
No, it's not. But I will say, the big broadcast, due to the fact that it has Lucy's name fiasco, they get a pass, I feel like, in general, on the fact that in the big broadcast, they mentioned needing to fill 23 and a half more hours. When in this episode, they can't broadcast for 23 and a half hours because they can only go from sunrise to sunset. That's something that bothers me only because the Lucy's name being in that episode just completely, takes the spotlight. Yeah. Anyway, that's not the episode we're talking about today.
No, not at all.
So, in this episode, Brad Dillard. This kid who loves radio. His grandfather worked on an old radio station. His father is a station manager in Connellsville. And he's at Wits End listening to the radio. I'm not really sure why he's at Wits End. And it seems like he has a personal radio with him.
It would give that impression, yeah.
And I get that he loves radio, but that still seems rather odd to me.
It does seem rather. I will say this whole episode, as much as I like it, it doesn't feel very believable to me.
It's Wits End. Everything's believable.
Is any
it's atmospherical magic.
Yeah, I know, but I get this was the 80s. Radio was bigger, but is any kid that big into radio?
Well, I mean, they give a good background. His dad is a radio guy. His grandfather was a radio guy, so he's probably grown up with a lot of radio stuff that even kids maybe then wouldn't have even been as into radio. But because they give good background, that explains why he's that into radio.
I suppose. I just feel like that, or even not to burst the fun bubble, kids starting a radio station. The whole thing I feel like is a bit unbelievable, but it's Odyssey, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's a place where kids can be kids and kids can do crazy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but so anyway, unfortunately he can't find anything worth listening to, which Mr. Whitaker can't believe. It's like with all the stations and there's nothing on, then, well, I guess radio's changed a lot from when I was a kid. They had radios when you were a kid?
I feel like it's not the only time. I feel like that's not the only time that joke is made.
Yeah, I feel like it is.
Well, did they make that joke in Lights Out at Wits End? I can't believe we're bringing that up again.
I think they do.
That episode comes up
why is that episode so easy to refer to? It's so weird and not good.
It's because it's burned into our memory.
Yeah. It's like a core memory, and we've only had it for a few months.
I know. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, he says it's changed a lot from when he was a kid. There's all those great shows. I don't even remember what all he says besides the Lone Ranger, like the Shadow, Fibber, McGee, and Brad says Millie. It's actually Molly.
Molly, yeah.
But Brad responds that if he thinks that there should be shows like that for kids again. He thinks people would still listen if they were there. He says he would even do one if he had the equipment and opportunity. He says, I don't know if he says it now or a little bit later, he says that he just asked his dad if he could do one on their station, and his dad doesn't think people would listen. But he says that he would do it if he had the equipment. Mr. Whitaker says, you really think you could? And he's like, yeah, I would get a bunch of the kids to help me. It would be great. And so it's like, well, come on. I've got some old radio equipment that I've just been waiting for the perfect opportunity to use in the back of the store.
Yeah, he bought Wits End and saw the radio equipment and was like, that's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Whitaker just happens to have some old radio equipment because there was a radio station run out of one of the upstairs rooms in Wits End because what wasn't run out of Wits End,
Of course. That's what, when he says it, I'd kind of forgotten about that detail. But I was like, of course there was a radio station run out of Wits End in the 30s.
Why not? It was apparently the only one in Odyssey for a while.
Yeah.
So he finds all the equipment and says
more than one radio station?
Huh?
Is it normal for one town to have more than one radio station? I don't really know.
I would not know.
Radio has
we
changed
didn't listen
a
to a
lot
lot of radio.
since
Actually, you listened to a whole lot more radio than I did.
I did for a while, but yeah, I don't. But yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I have absolutely no idea. The only thing I really listened to the radio for personally was I would get some Minnesota Twins games on the radio on Sunday afternoon because we had rest time, so I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, we're admitting that we were not children of the radio era.
No, we
I'm
were.
I'm sorry.
If it wasn't obvious from how old we are.
Yeah. But
But yeah.
anyway, Wits End
So
has
yeah,
his radio.
Brad says that he thinks he can get a bunch of the kids to help him, and then so they have like a big meeting. I want to. Honestly, it feels like they just like called everybody who happened to be in Wits End at that very moment together. Which it is
Probably.
the summer, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not
Because
made clear
this whole album
necessarily.
takes place in the summer.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I
So yeah,
want
all
to
the
say,
kids are there, and
leading into this meeting, we had a transition, and the transition music that played, you know how some transition music can be in multiple episodes, but you always associate it with one?
mm-hmm.
I associate this transition music with Curious, Isn't It? When they think Mr. Whitaker is getting married, because they play that music and then Connie and Eugene go, "He's getting what?"
Oh, and it's like the do 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 do.
Yeah, it's like the Odyssey theme, but in a I don't know what the instrument is,
Like
but
a
it's
whistle almost.
yeah, a whistly, airy kind of
Yeah,
sound. I don't know what it is, but
yeah. That's I do associate with that now that you say that. I didn't
yeah,
even notice it in this episode. That's crazy.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have this meeting. Brad's getting people together, saying they're going to start it, buy kids, 4 kids. And then Leonard, voiced by same person who voiced Monty and Muggsy in the last episode, which, by the way, I just want to point out, I know they weren't really keeping kids yet at this point because the Barclays haven't come back, so we haven't really had a repeat kid yet.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they leave it as Muggsy? It's
I know,
obviously he who's there. Like, he would have fit perfectly.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying because our next episode is gonna be Camp Whatnot, and the kid voices Chaz, so they clearly want this kid to be the bad kid. Why not have him be the same bad
Yeah, like,
kid
it
every
would have
time?
fit fine. Like, all 3 of
Yeah.
those episodes.
Yeah, I
It
don't
could have been
know.
Muggsy. I never thought about that until this time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I don't often listen in chronological order. But yeah, they could have left it as Muggsy. It
Yeah.
honestly might have played better as Muggsy based on how funny he is in VBS Blues.
It's true. And we should also mention Brad is voiced by the voice who's later Jack, who has been Irwin and Jack at this point. So
Yeah, and then we'll get to Sherman here in a second. Is voiced by Oscar, right?
yes.
Yes. So yeah, Brad says they're gonna have auditions for who's gonna like be disc jockeys on air. They're gonna need some help with the electronics equipment. And while he's doing this, Leonard is asking like random questions the entire time, and he's like, "Who put you in charge? Just because you're like our class president during the year doesn't mean you get to be in charge of us during the summer." And then Witz interjects like, "I did, Leonard."
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, so he
And I
asks for
like
someone to
how-
help with the electronics, and he sees a hand up, so he's like, "Yeah, you in the back, stand up." I am standing up. Sherman.
Sherman. Which I feel like we're giving Sherman more background than he needs.
Yeah,
Like, why is there this pre-existing joke about Sherman being short and he gets bullied at school?
yeah.
It felt
one thing I want to
unneeded.
point out, even when what's his name, Brad
Leonard?
apologizes
Brad.
for how much he would pick on Sherman during school at the end of the episode, he literally says the only reason that he apologizing because he didn't realize Sherman was so cool, not because like he wouldn't pick on a kid who he thought was like Sherman.
That's also true.
Because he's like, if I would have known you were a good guy and not a geek, I wouldn't have done it. Insinuating that if there's another kid he thinks is a geek, he would still do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like Sherman has more backstory than any other kid, like, than kids normally get at this point in Odyssey. And so if that's not the focus of the episode, why is it there?
Yeah, that is a little interesting. But basically, it's that none of the kids think Sherman is skilled enough to figure out all this electronic equipment, which Whit intervenes again on Sherman's behalf, saying Sherman has actually helped him with some of his inventions, and that he does know what he's doing with electronics.
Yeah. I like how through all of this, Wit is there. He's letting the kids do their thing, just guiding them as needed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
He interjects when he feels like he needs to, but he stays out of it as much as he possibly can.
yes.
And that'll come back into play at the end of the episode, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sherman volunteers. They decide he can do it. And then Yeah, for the next is it's not quite a montage, I guess, but it's like a bunch of little clips of what they
Kind
did
of.
over the next couple weeks. Like Sherman was working on the electronic equipment, Brad was doing auditions, and in Brad's auditions, there's two. I wrote both of them down. There's two really funny ones. The first one is Leonard auditions to be a
Yeah,
disc jockey.
I
He's
wrote
like,
down both of
"Here,
these
Leonard,
too.
read this
Okay.
out loud, Leonard."
Yeah. Is Leonard funnier to you because of Leonard Meltzner at all? The name?
No, I don't think so. Just because I
Okay.
already know that's the name in the like,
Yeah.
it's not out of place.
Yeah. It's funny, in the last episode we had Muggsy, whose name is Eugene, and then in this
Yeah.
episode we have Leonard.
Yeah. Although I almost wish I hadn't thought of it now, like listening like this. It honestly slightly bothers me that they didn't leave it as Muggsy now, and I know that they weren't really doing that quite yet. But like I
Yeah.
feel like it could have, like it would have been good.
It would have been good, but can you also think if they're not doing recurring characters, but then they do this recurring bad kid, it would have felt weird at the time.
It's true.
Now it wouldn't, but I feel like for the
Yeah.
time it would have.
Anyway, the second funny disc jockey audition is this kid. We don't get a name until later in the
Benjamin.
episode, but his name is Benjamin, and he has an interesting voice, I guess you would say. But he comes on, he's like, "I want to be a disc jockey, Brad. Can I audition to be a disc jockey?"
And you can tell Brad's just like,
He's
okay,
like,
whatever,
"Here,
read this.
read this." He's like, "Okay,
Okay,
I'm ready to
I'm
read."
ready to read.
Today in the news,
You're hired.
you're hired.
You can just tell somebody in the, I don't know, the writers, one of the actors, they just wanted to get this voice in there. I don't know.
Because what's even funnier is that later in the episode when Benjamin's back, Brad specifically says he didn't want to be a disc jockey.
That's true.
So they specifically threw this in there just to get that voice to be that, like, to do the funny bit of, "Okay, I'm ready to read. Today in the news."
Yeah, well, I don't think it's that Benjamin didn't want to be, it's Brad didn't want him to be, because he told him don't say anything.
Yeah, I get that, but, like, they didn't put that in there
Yeah.
and think about, like, they didn't intend for that to come back into play. They just wanted that in there because it's funny.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready to read.
to read. Today in the news.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So yeah, throughout the 2 weeks, we get that. We hear a clip of Sherman testing how many transistors, transformers, I think.
Some radio
some
thingy.
electronic thing. How many of them work? And he's like, and Mr. Whitaker's asking him, how many of them still work? 5. And then you hear a bunch of pops. 1.
One. It's a great sound bit because
Uh-huh.
you hear it happen.
Yeah. But so towards the end, it's been 2 weeks. Brad has just finished all his auditions. And he's a little bit exhausted already at this point. He comes to check on Sherman, who's working by himself, figuring out the electronics. And Brad's like, "I thought you were supposed to have some help." But you can already see at this point, while they still were getting some help, the enthusiasm for most of the kids is already starting to wane. Mm-hmm. Well, Brad starts to help him out. He apologizes for thinking that Sherman was a geek. He says he transferred him in gym class. He says he apologized for not seeing what a good guy he was. And he asks why so many other kids don't see it. And Sherman says they never got close enough to notice, I guess. It's just a sad line.
It is sad. And again, if this isn't the focus of the episode, why are we bringing it in?
Yeah, like there's just shallow, like the understory, like that has nothing to do with the main story of the episode. It's just like get to know a person, don't make assumptions.
Yeah. Like, Sherman, justice for Sherman, he needs his own
Yeah.
episode.
We want Sherman.
We want Sherman. Yeah.
But anyway, as they're working, Mr. Whitaker pops in and says he just met with the mayor and they've got a temporary broadcast license because the mayor pulled strings in Washington. What mayor has the ability to pull strings in Washington?
The mayor of Odyssey.
I mean, I get that. But, like, I mean, Kurt couldn't get his phone hooked up to the president when he was mayor for the day.
That was in his imagination, though.
I know. I'm joking. But I don't know. For some reason, that struck me as like, if it was like the mayor contacted somebody at the state level, that would make more sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know. It is a little
For some reason, I just like, that seems like an oddly, and like, because he got it done like that fast, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway, they have a broadcast license. They can broadcast from sundown or from sunset, from sunrise to sundown, not from sundown to sunset. That would be pretty short.
Night radio.
Yeah. But they can broadcast from sunrise to sunset as long as Mr. Whitaker is the sponsor of the station, which obviously they have no problem with. He was essentially already in that role.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're good to go. And Brad's like, it means we can start as soon as possible. He's like, Sherman, how soon can we start? And Sherman's like, well, if we work really hard, no interruptions, Saturday. I love how Sherman delivers that line personally.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they get it going by Saturday, and they run their first broadcast Saturday morning. They throw the switch. I love how Mr. Whitaker says that line. He's like, Sherman, throw the switch.
It's like, pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever.
Fortunately for Sherman, he pulls the right switch, though.
It's true.
Yeah, so they start off. Big Brad gets the thing going. I think it's funny. Sherman's like, did he just say Big Brad? It's clear, but what's really funny is it gets off to a very rocky start. Mm-hmm. And what plays into at the end of the episode is when the guy comes in and says he thinks they were funny. Like, Brad was kind of like last episode when Ned wanted his performance more serious. Brad wanted this to be smoother and less comical than it ends up being.
Yeah.
I think. But it's still great because it's comical.
Yeah.
But
and I think another writing decision that I think is good is that we hear the beginning of this from the perspective of Mr. Whitaker and Sherman outside of the studio. I think it's funnier because we get to hear their thoughts than if we were just listening to Brad.
Yeah. So yeah, Brad he intros the show as it's a station by kids, for kids, and then he's like, we're gonna get going with a little music, and the record skips.
Yeah.
And then they go to Sherman with the news, or for the traffic report. And not only is Sherman's traffic report and stuff funny, but why does Mr. Whitaker go traffic report, but it's Saturday?
That line is funny because does nobody drive in Odyssey on Saturday?
Nobody. But it also makes me think of, I don't know if anybody out there who listens to this is familiar with Taylor Mason, but it makes me think of Taylor Mason. I think it's Taylor Mason. Has the thing with the local radio station. You're we would do a traffic report. It's like, the light is red.
Which then makes me think, I'm telling you, man, every third blink is slower. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's obviously not much of a traffic report. Sherman says, there's not much traffic today, but there was a collision on the corner of such and such and such. I ran into such and such on my skateboard. I knocked him off his bike.
Yeah, I love it. He just breaks out of character. You can tell he's just reading along, and then he's like, I did this.
Yeah. You gotta love Sherman.
Yeah. He's a great character. And I feel like there's a bit of him and Oscar later on. So I feel like a little bit of Sherman comes back.
So they get through that, and then they go to an ad, which is for Wits End. He's giving away one free ice cream cone for every one that someone buys in, to celebrate the opening of the radio station. And then this bothered me, probably for no reason, but when Brad repeats the ad afterwards, and he doesn't say, only at Wits End. He says, only at Wits End. He just enunciates it, the wrong way.
Yeah, it's the wit instead of the end.
Yeah, it's just nobody ever says it like that. And I don't know, it just grated on my nerves when I listened to it this time. For really no reason, I just thought it was odd.
Yeah, I was more noticing that in the Wits End ad, they're playing the Odyssey theme.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many times you hear the Odyssey theme in Odyssey.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So they get through that. Then Brad tells Sherman to read the news, and Sherman's like, read the news? I just read read the news. I just did the traffic report. You're going to read the news.
Yeah. I love how all of this is on air, too.
Yeah. And so as he's reading the news, he's trying to figure out something about the Soviets and their launch protocols or something. Yeah. And then Brad just gets I don't even know how he got the information. It sounds like a typewriter in the back, but you don't just get a message in a typewriter. So I don't know where he was getting this information from.
It's a telegraph machine.
I don't know what it was, but regardless, he gets a breaking news thing. It's essentially someone's dog escaped.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got the message, but I just think it's funny. He interrupts Sherman trying to read about the Soviets' launch protocols.
Yeah. And I like throughout all of this, it's definitely a kids radio, but he's trying to run it very much like adult radio, which
For
is a lot
sure.
different than how kids radio comes back as later as pretty much exclusively audio dramas and
Yeah.
skits and stuff.
Which we don't hear everything they do over the few days that they're on in this episode, but
That's
I'm
true.
guessing there was some of that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But it was also
I don't
just
know. I feel
Brad
like
and
because
Sherman.
or not Sherman, Brad talks about that kind of stuff at the beginning of the episode. Or if there isn't any of that yet, like he would have liked to do some of that at least.
Yeah.
But then Sherman, he tells him to read the weather. And I love this because Sherman is just reading this because it's apparently how Brad typed it out. But he's like, the weather is real nice today, Big Brad. It's partly sunny or partly cloudy. Kind of a little of both. So don't go to the pool or you'll get a lopsided suntan. And it says here that the highs will be the lows of the uppers.
What? That's what it
That's
says.
what it says.
You wrote it.
Yeah. So I just love that. And so that's all I think all we hear from the initial broadcast. Well, I guess later in the day we get the impression it's still the first day. But Brad finally got relieved after having a long run. And there was really nobody there to relieve him. The person who was supposed to relieve him was on restriction because he hit his sister.
It's such a funny detail that gets thrown
It is.
in there.
But it makes so much sense, too.
Yeah.
I would
Well, someone's
never.
not supposed to do it, but he hit his sister, so his parents put him on restriction.
Yeah. So Benjamin, who we mentioned earlier, is the only person that Brad could find to replace him. So he told him to play a lot of music and don't say anything. Well, after a little bit, Benjamin decides to say something. And I just want to point out, because let's just say what Benjamin says, like, "Hi, I'm Benjamin, and I thought you'd like to hear a selection on my saxophone."
Here
Which means
goes.
he brought his saxophone with him. How did Brad not see him carrying a saxophone or saxophone case or something in the studio when he went in?
I get the feeling that Brad is so focused on what he's trying to do that he's not really paying attention to the kids around him until they mess
probably.
up.
But yeah, so Benjamin is like playing on saxophone, and Brad's like, "Benjamin!"
Yeah, and
He goes and gets him off the air. And then that's really all we hear. We come back a few days later. We're not sure how much. It seems like less than a week
or about a week, yeah.
or about a week, somewhere in there. I would assume that they probably made it through most of the week, if not 1 week. But after a few days, Brad's father comes in towards closing time, comes in and says, finds Whit at the counter. There's music playing in the background from kids' radio. Tells Whit, like, "I'm surprised you're still open." And it's like, well, he's not going to close until kids' radio is off the air. His father comes in, and he's been hearing kids' radio for the past couple of days. He's come to put a stop to it.
Yes. So ominous.
Yes. And it's like, well, you don't like it? He's like it? I love it. I think it's great. But not if Brad's the only one doing it. And so this is like all those kids that were there at the beginning of the episode are no longer there. Maybe it's because like they're not as interested in radio as Brad, which is fully possible, or just they didn't get to do everything they wanted to do, so they quit.
Or it's summer and they want to be out doing other things.
Yeah, like I don't think it's crazy because I mean there's a lot of time because like in the summer, I mean I'm assuming they're not starting at like 6 a.m, but in the summer you could probably go from like 6 to 9 at least. I mean
Yeah,
it
it's probably at
depends
least
where you're
12
at.
hours.
Yeah, at least 12 hours. So, yeah, so his father's talking to Mr. Whitaker, and Mr. Whitaker's like, "I've tried not to intervene too much, let them it be theirs, but maybe it's time I step in." And then the music goes off, and there's just nothing. We don't know why, but so Mr. Whitaker tells Brad's father, like, "Let me bring Brad home tonight. I'm going to talk to him." So he goes in the studio.
Says maybe he should have stepped in sooner than this anyway.
But yeah, so he goes into the studio, finds Brad asleep. He's like, Brad, I'll go up to bed in a minute, Mom. Brad? Oh, the studio. But so Whit comes on the air and says that it will be the final broadcast of kids radio if kids don't come back to help Brad and Sherman. Sherman is obviously, I'm guessing, doing more technical work than on-air work, but Sherman has stuck around the whole time too. So Brad's pretty upset that Mr. Whitaker says he's going to take him off the air if they don't get any help. But it's like, you can't run yourself ragged trying to make this work. And Brad's father even said, like, he knows Brad will run himself into the ground trying to make it work.
Yeah.
So he says the next day they'll have a meeting for anybody who wants to help out. Which I do want to point out, I'm guessing there weren't too many people still listening to kids' radio at the very end of the night.
That's true. Yeah. I don't think any kids would have come anyway.
No, the point of the episode is that no kids were going to come anyway. I just feel like realistically there wouldn't have been that many people listening by then anyway.
It's true.
Yeah, so the next day they have a meeting. Nobody shows up. Brad's like, oh, that's it. Nobody showed up. Sherman's like, I'm here. It's like, I mean, anyone besides us, Sherm. But so yeah, they're pretty down. Brad thinks they failed. And Mr. Rickard doesn't think they failed. Obviously, I mean they got it all running. They did a good job. And then this guy comes in. His name is Mr. Adams, right?
I can't remember his name. I forgot to pay attention.
Anyway, he works for Odyssey Radio, and he wants to meet Big Brad in Sherwood.
Odyssey 102.
Yeah, I noted that too.
Not Odyssey 105.
I mean, Odyssey 105 doesn't come around for a long time.
I know.
That'd be almost like a recurring character. We don't do recurring radio stations yet.
That's true.
But yeah, he says he wants to meet Big Brad in Sherwood.
No, Sheldon.
Oh, it's Sheldon and then Sherwood?
And then Sherwood, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sherman.
He says that he heard their show and he thought they were great. He thought they were the funniest thing he'd ever heard. And Brad is taking that as an insult. He didn't want to be funny.
No.
But the guy clarifies, you're Big Brad and Sherwood? Sherman. I don't think you understand. I thought you guys were terrific. And he wants to have them on his station. Because he apparently had been trying to come up with something like that, for kids or by kids for a while. So he's talking to Mr. Whitaker. It's like, can I have them? I want to are they under contract to you? Can we get something worked out here? And Mr. Whitaker's like, the station's on hold right now, so they're not under contract to me.
Yep.
So yeah, they basically end up getting a deal with Odyssey Radio. They get to take their show there every Saturday morning.
Yeah, and Mr. Whitaker also says, when Brad is talking about like what's gonna happen to kids' radio, Mr. Whitaker says, when the time's right, it'll come back, and it does.
It does, yes.
Yep.
But then I think one of the funniest, non-related to an actual episode, it's in the episode, but it's not related to the actual story of the episode, but it's just hilarious, is the end of this episode is before Mr. Adams leaves Wits End. Mr. Whitaker goes Mr. Adams, I had an idea for a radio drama. It would be about this, it would be in a little town, and it would be about these kids having all kind of adventures at a building called a Discovery Emporium. Be run by a grandfatherly inventor. They would sell ice cream, and he describes Adventures in Odyssey.
Yeah.
And this radio guy thinks it's the worst idea ever. But I do want to point out,
stick to selling ice cream, Mr. Whitaker.
I do want to point out, while the idea, it's funny because he's describing the show that is currently on air, and the guy in the show thinks it's a terrible idea. But when you spell out what Odyssey is, you wouldn't really think it would make sense.
Yeah. I honestly feel like that's something that the Odyssey creators have been thinking about for almost 40 years now.
But I think,
how is it kept making sense? It doesn't make sense.
But I think that's part of the point of putting that in the episode is it's not because it would necessarily make sense on paper, but they started doing it, and I would say at least partially it was in God's plan for it to still be around.
Yeah. And at this point, we're over 6 months into the show. And so I felt like it's you can definitely tell. I feel like kind of throughout this whole episode, an undercurrent driven by this last line is them kids need this type of radio. This kind of radio.
And not just radio, but just I don't want to say, I'm going to say media. It's not media how we think of it today, but just the things that kids get into, music, TV, radio, nowadays, social media and all that stuff. There needs to be more family friendly, good content available.
Yeah. They were definitely pushing an agenda here, but I don't think it's a bad one. I think
it's a good one.
Good. Yeah. Another thing I feel like it's worth pointing out here is that nowhere in this episode do they call it KYDS, Kids Radio.
That's true.
That comes later when it comes back.
But yeah, I guess that about does it. Chris's outro she says that she thinks Wit's description of Odyssey is a good idea too. And she also reads a verse about working, like whatever you do to work wholeheartedly. It's for the Lord. So
Yep.
yeah, that about does it. Yeah, I guess I don't know what next week's is. Is it Camp Whatnut next week?
Yes, next week we have the Camp Whatnut two-parter. So looking forward to that.
Little Boss.
Yes. Little boss.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We thank you for watching and or listening. We just want to take some time to give a quick, I guess, shout out. It had been a little over a week and a half ago from when you're going to hear this episode. We had an episode featured on the Your Fellow Odysseans podcast. And yeah, so we hope you had a chance to listen to that. We had a lot of fun doing that interview with Daniel on there.
Yeah, and Esther. Esther was there
Esther,
too.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't already listen to the Your Fellow Odysseans podcast and you are an Odyssey fan, go check it out because it's a good podcast.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of other good stuff on there, and we had a lot of fun being featured on it, and so, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for watching today's episode. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe wherever you get the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.